This is Video 5, Drawing 5, and Lesson 5 of my Inktober drawing and video series. If you have not viewed the Introduction to Inkscape and Zentangle's video, you should do that before viewing this, particularly if you are new to Inkscape or new to Zentangles. This video is going to feature the pattern Bales. First, I will show you how to create the pattern, then I will use the pattern in a drawing. This is the pattern Bales. I'm going to use the Ellipse Tool to create this pattern. We haven't used that tool before, so before we get started, I want to tell you a few things about the Ellipse Tool. To activate the tool, you click on it, and then you press your left mouse button and drag to create an ellipse. When you've got the ellipse the size you want, you release the left mouse button. If you want to create a circle or an ellipse with a 2:1 or 3:1 ratio, you hold down the Control key and drag. If you want your ellipse, if you want the center of your ellipse to be the point at which you start, hold down your Control and Shift keys. Let me rephrase that. If you want the center of your circle to be the point at which you start, hold down your Control and Shift keys and drag. Objects drawn with the Ellipse tool are considered shapes. They have controls. You can see the squares and the circle here. Those are the controls. You can use the controls to adjust the size. You can use the square controls to adjust the size. You can use the round controls to create segments and arcs. To create a segment, drag the round control and make sure your mouse pointer is outside the ellipse. And as you can see, a segment is closed in. If you want to create an arc, make sure your mouse pointer is inside your ellipse as you drag the circular control. If you create a segment or a arc, Inkscape, the next time you draw, will create the exact same thing. So I created an arc here. The next time I went to draw, Inkscape created an arc. Shapes, all shapes, can be converted to paths. And to convert this shape to a path, I click on the Nodes tool, and then I click on this icon. That converts it to a path. We no longer have controls, we now have these nodes and lines in between them, and we can adjust the shape by dragging the nodes or by clicking on the segment, the line between the two nodes, and dragging it. when you have nodes, the nodes can be joined. For example, to select this node, I'm going to click on it, and then I'm going to hold down my Shift key and click on this node to select it. If I want to join those two nodes, I click this icon, Join Selected Nodes, and Inkscape joins the nodes. There's a bit more to know about ellipses, and I'll put a link to a web page that I have that goes into a great deal of detail about ellipses for you to look at to learn more about them. Okay, so I'm almost ready to create my pattern Bales. The first thing I'm going to do, though, is click File, Document Properties to open up my Document Properties dialog box. I'm going to go here to the Grid tab, the Grids tab, and I'm going to change the major grid line every from 6 to 3. And then I'm going to close this dialog box. So now my major grid lines are closer together, and each of these boxes that encompasses a major grid line is smaller. So now I'm going to click on my zoom tool and zoom in. My snapping tool, snap to grid, is on. That's on by default. I'm going to select the ellipse tool. I want to make sure I'm drawing a circle, so I'm going to press my left mouse button and drag. I don't have a circle. I can change this to a circle by clicking on this icon, or an ellipse I should say, change it to an ellipse. Now I can delete that, pressing my delete key. Now I'm ready to create my Bales pattern. And I'm going to start by creating a section that looks like this. So I'll come over here, select the ellipse tool. I'm going to click at the handle to grid intersection, press my left mouse button, and drag until I get to the handle. This is 2 blocks over and 2 blocks down to that handle to grid intersection. Then I'm going to release my mouse button. Now I want to create an arc, so I'm going to drag the circular control until I have a quarter of a circle. So now I have my quarter of a circle. I'm going to, it's selected. I'll use the selector tool. I have my quarter of a circle and it's selected. So I'm going to click on this icon. It will duplicate this. So the duplicate is directly on top of the original. So I'm going to click my rotate selection 90 degrees counterclockwise icon and rotate that duplicate 90 degrees. And then I'm going to click it again to rotate it 90 degrees again. So now what I have is, and we'll zoom in a little bit, what I have is 2 objects here. this object, and then another object here, this object. I want to select them both, so I'm going to hold down my Shift key and select. I see two little rectangles there, so they're both selected. I had previously selected this one, and then I'm going to click on this icon. That'll convert these two from the elliptical shape to a path. And I know they're a path because I have these two gray nodes here. Then I'm going to select this node at the top and click Join, so that this becomes one object, and then click down, select down here and click Join. So this is a seed-like structure, and it's closed in. That's what I wanted. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this up into this corner, and then I'm going to rotate it counterclockwise 90 degrees. So this is going to be the bases for Bales. I'm going to zoom to fit window, and I look at this and I look at this. It's pretty much the same. So now to fill up my page with my pattern Bales, what I'm going to do is click Edit, Clone, Create Tiled Clones to open up my Tiled Clones dialog box. I'm not going to use simple translation here. I'm going to use P4, 90-degree rotation. And the reason I made that selection is if you look at Bales, this seed-like structure is a 90-degree rotation when you compare it to this one. This one is a 90-degree rotation when you compare it to this one. And this one is a 90-degree rotation when you compare it to this one. So I picked P4, 90-degree rotation. I want 20 rows and 20 columns. I'm going to click my Reset button to reset anything that may have been changed in a previous session on any of these tabs, and then I'm going to click Create. Oops. No, then I'm going to make sure my seed-like structure is selected, and I would usually group whatever I use for creating my tiled clones, but this is just one object, so it doesn't need to be grouped. So I'll click Create, and there I have it, my pattern Bales. So what I like to do now is take my sample Bales and drag it down. Then click on any one of my clones, it doesn't matter which one, and click Edit, Clone, select Original to select my original, and my original is behind the first clone, so I click on this icon to raise it to the top, and then I drag it out. Then I label it. Original clone. And just to be on the safe side, I'll just, it lights up. I can modify it. That's the original. Then what I like to do is make a copy of one of the clones. So I'm going to click on this and then click on my copy icon. Oh, I clicked on the wrong thing. I click undo. I'm going to click on this and then click on my copy icon, and then I'm going to come over here, right click and paste. So what I like to have is an unlinked clone. Since this is a copy, it's a clone. I can't make any changes to it. So what I'm going to do is click on this icon. That'll unlink it. Check it. Yeah, I see the two nodes here. I can make changes, and I'll just label this one unlinked clone. I'm just tidying up here. It's not necessary, but I like to do it. Okay, so there I have it. This is my pattern clones, my pattern Bales. And I'll be back in a little bit to show you how I can use this to create a drawing. I have saved my Bales pattern file. I named it Bales and accepted the default extension of SVG. That'll allow me to come back at any time and modify the file. I then opened up a new document and set up my document properties. I'm now ready to create my drawing. For this, I'm going to use layers. So I'm going to click Layer, Layers to open up the Layers dialog box. You can think of layers as a stack of transparent sheets. You can see through each layer to the layer beneath. If you want something to appear to be on top of something else, you put it on a higher layer. If you want something to appear to be behind something else, then you put that object on a lower layer. I'm going to click on the Layer tab, and then I'm going to change the name of this layer to Background. Press Enter. Then I'm going to click this button right here. It's the Add Layer button, and I'm going to add another layer. I'm going to name that layer Design. I want to place it above the current layer. That's the option selected here, and I'll click Add. So now I have two layers, a design layer and a background layer. I want to start working on the background layer, so I'll click on that layer. Whatever layer is selected here, that's the layer you're working on. I'm going to turn off my Snap to Grids here. That's on by default. And I'm going to click the Snap to Page border because that's what I want to snap to. Then I'm going to move over here and click on my rectangle tool, and then here when I see Handle to Page Corner, going to click, hold down my left mouse button and drag. And then here also I want to see handle to page corner. When I see that, I'll release my mouse. So what I've done is I've created a border around my page, and I have my default set so that it creates a stroke without a fill. But I do want to give this a fill, and a fill just is something that fills the interior, and the stroke is the outline. So I want to fill my interior with the color black. So I'm going to come down here and click on the color black. So I'll click this to fit my page in my window. So now I have a background that fills my page. I'm going to come over here on the background layer. There's a little lock here, and if I click that, it closes the lock, and I cannot inadvertently make changes to this. I can come back and unlock it later if I do want to make a change, but that keeps me from making inadvertent changes. There's also a little eye here. If I click on the eye, it closes, and I can no longer see the background. It's still there. If I click on the eye again, that brings it back, but if I close it, I can no longer see the background, and I think that's how I want to work on this particular project. So I'm finished with my background. I'm now going to move to my design layer. To create my design, I'm going to hold down the Alt and Tab keys to move to my pattern file, and I want to make a copy of the unlinked clone. So I'm going to click on the unlinked clone, and then I'm going to click on the copy icon. Then I'm going to go back to my working file and click paste. That pastes my Bales into my file. I'm going to drag that, I don't know, right about here. It doesn't matter because I can align it later. And then what I'm going to do is use my tiled clones to create a pattern. So I'll click Edit, Clone, Create Tiled Clones. For this, I want to use the 90-degree rotation, and that's what's selected here. And I want 12 rows and 12 columns. That's what's selected. I'm going to click my Reset button. That'll set anything that I may have changed on any of these tabs in a previous session back to the default. And then with my Bales selected, I'm going to click Create. So there I have my pattern. I clicked off of it, but what I'm going to do now is click on one of the clones and click Edit, Clone, Select Original. So now my original is selected. I want to pull that out, so I'll click this icon to raise it to the top, and then I will drag it out. So now I have my pattern here. I think what I'll do is I'll select it all, and then I'll click Object, Align and Distribute. I want to center this, and I want to center it on the page, and that's what's selected here. I want to treat the selection as a group. That's important because I haven't grouped this. So I want to treat the selection as a group, and then I want to center on the vertical axis and then center on the horizontal axis. So now my pattern is in the center of my page. Click on my canvas to deselect all that. Then I'm going to come over here and select my original clone. I want to add a gold fill to that. So I'm going to come down here and click the color gold. So now everything has a gold fill. Then I'm going to, and by the way, in case you're looking for it, this is color AA8800. I'm going to hold down my Shift key, click the color gold again. That changed the stroke from black to gold. So now this is gold. Then what I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to add a border here. So click on my rectangle tool, click here. I'm going to turn on my Snap to Grid for the grid here. I don't need the page anymore, but I have the grid. Then when it says handle to grid intersection, I'll click and drag and come down here, and when it says handle to grid intersection, I'll release the left mouse button. I'll come down here and hold down my Shift key. I want to change this stroke to gold, so I'm going to hold down my Shift key and click the color gold again. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a filter to this stroke. So I'll come here, click Filter, Bevels, and I'm going to choose Combined Lighting. And with these filters, all you have to do is, for most of them, not all of them, all you have to do is select the one you want and click. And it'll apply the filter. I don't know how clearly you can see that, but I can definitely tell that it has been applied. Then I'm going to come over here. I'm going to select my original, and I'm going to apply that same filter to this. I'll click Filter, Bevels, Combined Lighting, and so that applied the filter to these, and it gives it like a gold foil look. So now what I'm going to do is come back down here, and maybe I'll close this and close this. I want to go back down to my background layer and turn that back on, and that's what I wanted. I like that, but I'm going to do something else to give it just a little bit more pizzazz. I'm going to click on this clone, hold down my Shift key. By holding on my Shift key, it'll just add to the selection. So I'm going to hold down my Shift key, click on this one. Shift key is still pressed. This one, 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 and this one. And then I'm going to come up here and go across and do the same way in this direction. And I'm going to unlink these so that they are no longer clones. just click this icon. So they're no longer clones. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give them a color. I'll try this one, 554400. And I'll hold down my Shift key. Yeah, I like that. Just to make it not so plain. I just clicked on my canvas. I like that, but I don't know. I'm going to try something else. I click on my original clone again. If I lighten that a little. So this is D4AA00. See what happens. Yeah, I like that better. It's just a little bit lighter. I'm going to try even lighter. Yeah, I like that. So now I'm going to hold down my Shift key and press that color again. That'll change the border. Okay, I'm going to go with that for my drawing. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. There are many more videos to come.